It is a rather chilly Sunday afternoon here in Port St. Lucie, Florida, as the New York Mets get set to host the St. Louis Cardinals. Spring training on SNY is presented by CDW. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Toyota. Ready, set, go, anywhere and everywhere with Toyota's legendary lineup, Toyota Let's Go Places. By HSS, the official hospital of the New York Mets. And by Tri-State Cadillac Dealers. Visit your Tri-State Cadillac dealer today. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Apple alongside Todd Zeal. Gary Cohen's going to be back for opening day. And it seems, Todd, like every time we've come on the air in recent days, we're talking about injuries. And today is no exception. It was here a couple of days ago, Friday night, Brandon Nimmo trying to break up a double play over at second base. Caught the right spike in the dirt. He went down. A lot of trepidation about what the diagnosis and the prognosis was going to be. It is a sprain of both the right knee and the right ankle, but a mild sprain, and so I would think that's pretty good news.
Yeah, I think when I got that news, Gary, I think that was the best case scenario. I think Brandon Nimmo said earlier today that he feels like it's the best case scenario too. There's not as much pain in the knee, and he feels like he's going to be ready for opening day, which I think is a huge relief for Mets fans. After Diaz going down, he definitely didn't want to see Brandon Nimmo go down as well, and it looks like he's going to be recovered in time, and that's what the Mets were hoping for.
So with Brandon out of the lineup today, it's going to be Mark Canha in center field for the Mets. David Peterson gets the start for the Mets today. He is angling for that fifth starter spot now that Jose Quintana is out until at least the beginning of July.
Yeah, David Peterson and Tyler McGill, as you can see, have both been very, very good this spring. I think David Peterson has the inside track on that starting rotation, maybe because just he's a left-hander. Right. Only 3 teams in the major leagues don't have a left-handed starter in that rotation, but both have been, pitching very well this spring, and both are going to be a factor at some point this season, Gary. If we've seen anything, we've seen that depth comes into play.
David Peterson yet to give up an earned run so far this spring. He goes for the Mets. Dakota Hudson for the St. Louis Cardinals. Mets baseball, Mets and the Cards on the way here on SNY. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by CDW. By your local Ford stores. For current offers, visit buyfordnow.com and by Delta, the official airline of the New York Mets. Compete to win the ultimate baseball game day experience with MLB Opening Day Pick'em presented by Chevrolet. Restrictions apply. See rules and enter at MLB.com/pick'em. It is time right now for your Advil Dual Action Player Profile. Our starting pitchers, David Peterson going for the Mets and Dakota Hudson for the St. Louis Cardinals. Peterson started 19 games for the Mets a season ago, 6-5, a 3.86 ERA. Hudson, he was 5th in the 2019 Rookie of the Year voting. He figures to be either a spot starter, find a spot in that bullpen as one of the long men for the Cardinals. Anybody for an autograph? Why not? That's what we do here in the spring. Have a hot dog. First pitch on the way. Well, there is a little bit of a chill in the air down here in Port St. Lucie today. 62 degrees at game time, but always room for a little bit of tailgating outside the ballpark. That looks pretty good. A little something on the Barbie. Check out the Cardinals lineup right now. It is presented by Nissan. They have 3 regulars in the lineup today. Brandon Donovan is going to be their everyday second baseman. Jordan Walker, what a good-looking prospect this young man is. And Nolan Gorman also in the lineup. He's down at third base, batting third. And Alec Burleson, he's got a good spring. He's in there at first base. He is batting 5th for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Well, David Peterson, we talked about him in the open. He's the guy that I think is the leading candidate for that 5th starter role. He's had a great spring, hasn't allowed a run or a hit yet this spring. And David really did a great job of adjusting to his role last season, coming out of the bullpen, going up and down, spot starting. And I think he's really being poised to get that starting role out of spring. Let's take a look at the Mets defense. It's brought to you by your local Ford stores. And Francisco Alvarez behind the plate. Vientos has had a good spring. He's at first base. Got Guillorme at second. And the guy to watch, Brett Beatty at third base. Canha getting the start in center field with Nimmo down. And then Starling Marte roaming right field as he always does.
There's Mark Canna. And listen, Mark is somebody who, as I mentioned a few days ago, he said one of the broadcasters out in Oakland many years ago nicknamed him duct tape because you can just put him over a myriad of issues and he can fix them. And he is versatile. He can play left field, which is where he's going to spend most of his time this year. He can move to center field. He can play some first base. And so he's going to be integral in what the Mets do this year. As we're set for game time, David Peterson into his windup, and it's Donovan bunting along the left side, and first pitch bunting is going to be an opening single for Donovan and the Cardinals.
Well, that's just smart baseball right there. Donovan, a leadoff guy, trying to find his way on base. Nobody has a chance at this one. You see where Beatty's playing in that shortstop hole, so no chance to make this play. Great job by Donovan.
This is 20-year-old Jordan Walker. First pitch into center field. Mark Canna coming in, has a beat on it, one down, and Donovan retreats back to first.
Well, these guys aren't waiting around. They figure that David Peterson's going to be throwing strikes, and they're coming out hacking. It's going to be fun to watch Jordan Walker, and we'll talk more about him in the broadcast. Great young prospect.
By the way, that bunt single by Brendan Donovan, that was the first hit that David Peterson has given up this spring.
It is. He had 8 innings and was working on a no-hitter, but, you know, Donovan did what he needed to do to get on base.
Nolan Gorman, 2018 first-round pick of the St. Louis Cardinals, should be their opening day designated hitter. He's worked on his swing. It's a little bit flatter this spring. Better able to handle the high fastball. He goes around. Count evens at 1-1. There's Ollie Marmol, the Cardinals manager. Second year on the job. Led them to a 93-win season a year ago. They advanced to the postseason for a 4th consecutive year. They won the National League Central for the first time since back in 2019. Here's the 1-1 pitch. And that's outside, 2-1.
David Peterson does a good job of holding on the runners. We've talked a lot about this spring, the new rules, throwing over, the wider bases. There's been more running this spring than there has been in the previous springs.
I think we are going to see more stolen bases this year, and
yeah, and I think
more activity on the bases.
Buck Showalter had said that the best way to combat that is not worrying about throwing over. It's being quick to home plate, giving your catcher a chance.
Peterson dials it up, 94, and the fastball, and the count goes full. David Peterson, 27 years old, Denver, Colorado native. First round pick of the Mets, 2017. He's a big guy, 6'6", 240 pounds. Donovan off first. There's the first throw over now by Peterson. And I thought it was interesting earlier this spring. I heard our colleague Ronnie Darling, talking about the fact that guys use an A move and a B move over to first. And with the limitation and limitations on how many times you can throw over, really it's all about the A move now. And that one is a called third strike on the corner, and down goes Gorman for the second out here in the top of the first.
Well, that's one of the big things that David Peterson has been able to do. There's a 3-2 slider right now. He's got Gorman looking for the fastball and is able to drop that slider for a strike when he needs it, and then he throws it in and out of the zone when he's ahead of the count. He's looking for chase. Great job.
So 2 down, 1 on here in the top of the first. Again, throw over by Peterson. Taylor Motter is the batter. He had a big day yesterday, hit a couple of home runs in the Cardinals' 8-4 win over the Tigers. Just the 15th Cardinal with a multi-homer spring game over the course of the last 17 years.
Well, Taylor Motter's a West Palm Beach native, so he likes playing down here in Florida, Gare. 33 years old. Been with quite a few teams. Still trying to find a way to crack that big league roster to stay.
That one misses, and the count evens at 1-1.
And I'm allowed to talk about guys that have been with quite a few teams, Gare.
You have experience in that area.
He's only got 7. He hasn't caught me quite yet. He's got a few more to go. That's a very good move, by the way. You talked about the A move. David Peterson, one of the reasons the guys can't get too big a lead off him, he's quick when he delivers normally to plate, but he's got that step-off move that's very quick, very accurate, and keeps the guys close. There it is again.
Well, that's the third throw over, and he did not get Donovan over there, and so Donovan, that's considered a balk, and Donovan takes second base. So that's the effect of the new rule, Todd.
Yeah, I mean, that one, that's tough. I think the third throw over being deemed a balk, that makes it really challenging for the pitchers. And you're going to see a lot more guys being aggressive, trying to get. And I think one of the things that you might see is guys getting a big one-way move, meaning they have no intention of going, but they get so far off that you almost have to throw over. That's what it looked like he did right there.
Count is 2-1 here on Motter. That one misses outside, goes to 3-1. Buck Showalter has discussed the fact that, listen, when you throw over twice, it's not a bad thing to try to get your guy, because if you don't get him, throw over that third time, he's going to steal anyway. That one is high, and Motter walks to put 2 on here in the first. Alec Burleson, the first baseman for the Cardinals. The manager, Ollie Marmol, has said Burleson has hit the ball hard. He doesn't have the results that he would like to have, but he swung it better than the numbers would indicate. First pitch swinging, and swings at a 93-mile-per-hour fastball, 0-1.
Burleson, like 24 years old, left-handed hitter, and he's a guy that they're hoping to get a little more offense out of. Only 48 big league at bats. Good pitch by David right there. To see when that slider's going for David Peterson, very effective, especially against these left-handed hitters. Starts in the zone and can break out of the zone for some chase.
Peterson ahead on Burleson, 0-2. In the air to shallow center field. Back goes Mendick, and he makes the catch to retire the side. So no. Gary and Todd back here in Port St. Lucie between the top and bottom of the first inning. The manager, Buck Showalter, with David Peterson right there. I would imagine talking about that decision to throw over to first a third time.
I'm guessing that's the same thing. I think he tried the good step-off move previously, and he wasn't able to get him. So Buck's probably just saying, hey, he didn't have a big enough lead to really be worried about him. You give him second base right there when you can concentrate on the hitter.
Danny Mendick leads things off for the Mets here in the bottom of the first inning.
Well, Dakota Hudson, a sinker slider guy, I think, as Gary alluded to, maybe on the bubble as the fourth or fifth starter in this rotation.
And Mendick hammers one to left field, no question about it, on the top of the Corona Beach House. Out there, Danny Mendick, his first home run of the spring, and very quickly gives the Mets a 1-0 lead.
Well, we were just mentioning that Dakota Hudson is a guy that's kind of on the bubble, and that's a fastball that stays up in the zone. That's not his bread and butter. He's a guy that needs to get the ball down in the zone. He pitches to contact. That one, Mendick all over. Good level swing on a high ball right here. You see a lot more guys trying to get the level cut because pitchers are throwing up in the zone more than they used to.
Luis Guillorme slashes one. That's a fair ball inside of the bag at third. Guillorme around first, on his way to second. Jordan Walker digs it out, but a stand-up double here for Luis Guillorme.
Well, Guillorme just goes with the pitch, something we talked about the other day that he's done so well, and not trying to do too much with it. He's got that wide open space at third base. Sinker away from him, and what does he do? He takes it where it's pitched. Great job.
So the Mets have come out swinging here off Dakota Hudson, the 6'5", 215-pound Right-hander for the Cardinals, Starling Marte, who had that double groin surgery during the offseason, comes in hitting .200 this spring, 2 for 10, and he has stolen a base, which was a good sight. That's something they'd like to see more of. They want to keep him on the field. They would love to see Starling Marte get back to running a little bit more this year.
Yeah, I think that's just for Marte. He's a guy that's always been plagued with that injury bug, and you want to keep him on the field as much as you can this season. Keep those legs healthy.
Guillorme off second. Marte swings at the off-speed pitch, and it's 1-2. Bounce to the left side. Motter fires across and gets Marte for the first out, and Guillorme's got to stay down at second. Mets starting lineup presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Daniel Vogelbach is the DH from the left side against the righty. And again, Mark Canha moves out into center field with Brandon Nimmo on the shelf at the moment. Both Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos in the lineup, and they have had really good springs. Those two fine-looking young players. Daniel Vogelbach begins the day hitting .269. Takes a called first strike.
Very patient hitter, Vogelbach, as we've talked about many times. And he's good at using left center field. And this is a guy that he might want to think about that gap with the ball running away from him.
On the ground to second. Donovan scoops it up. That's the second out, and Guillorme advances to third.
Well, those last two guys are more what they want to see out of Dakota Hudson, ground balls. He's a guy that likes to get ground balls. In this swing and miss era, he's a little bit of a throwback, but with good defense behind him, these guys can be effective.
Mark Canha with the runner down at third takes one up and in. Well, tough season for Dakota Hudson last year, coming off that Tommy John surgery. 139 and 2/3 innings. He was briefly demoted to AAA Memphis. Also spent time as a reliever, and he's sort of in no man's land for the Cardinals. Not going to make the starting rotation, which is Wainwright, Michaelis, Montgomery, Flaherty, and the former Met Steven Matz. So will they keep him stretched out, send him down to the minors, make him a long man in that bullpen? That's one of the big questions for the Cardinals.
Yeah, and if we've learned anything in the last few years, Gary, depth for the starting rotation is key. And what you have penciled in right now, of those five going north, whether you're the Cardinals or the Mets, may be different when it comes 2 weeks from now.
2-1 pitch to Mark Canha. Checks his swing, and the count goes even at 2-2. Well, the Cardinals, according to Ollie Marmol, had 32 guys for those 26 spots. So he's got tough decisions to make. And it's a Cardinal team that, once again, is predicted to win the National League Central. It's not a great division. Canha up the middle for a base hit. In comes Guillorme with the second run of the inning. So an RBI single for Mark Canha. That is his second RBI of the spring. And it's 2-0 Mets.
And you know, Gary, the thing that I love about this as much as anything is this was a hit for 100 years until it wasn't a few years ago. Now, with the banning of the shift, a base hit up the middle is another thing of beauty, and it's an RBI base hit for Canha. Nice job of hitting right there.
So the Mets have 2 on, and Brett Beatty, who's had a terrific spring so far, ranks second amongst qualifiers in on-base percentage, which is right at .500, 5th in average at .382, 14th at OPS at 1,000. He's doing everything in his power to turn heads and try and force his way onto this Mets opening day lineup, which would appear to be a long shot at this point. but he has certainly been impressive down here in Florida this spring. What do you like most, Todd, about his approach at the plate?
Well, I think he's got a very calm approach. I compared him a little bit to John Olerud when he first came up. And the reason I did is because he's got great control of the bat, and especially the left center field. Doesn't swing at a lot of balls. Loves to use the whole field, has power to the opposite field. And that enables him to stay on time because he waits long for the ball. So he's on time against the breaking ball. That's the ball he'll usually pull, but he can stay inside the baseball with the fastball and use the entire field. Makes him really dangerous.
Beatty, 23 years old. Came up with the Mets last year. Don't forget, hit a home run in his first at bat, which was incredible. Great moment for him. And then he tore his UCL at his right thumb and then was out of action. So Beatty works out a walk. It's been a tough first inning here for this guy right here, Dakota Hudson, so far. Tres Barrera goes out to have a word with him.
You know, I think the reason for this is because I think Dakota Hudson thought that was a strike, and he seemed to ask, and I think as a catcher, you're like, give the guy a chance to calm down. He's given up a couple of runs already. He's thinking that that ball was a strike. Get him off of that and concentrating on this hitter to get out of the inning.
So 2 on for Mark Vientos with 2 down and 2 in here in the bottom of the first. Vientos first pitch swinging into left field, base hit. Marcano around third. He's going to score. Beatty trying for third. He's in there safely, and the Mets have a 3-0 lead.
We didn't even really have time to talk about him, but Mark Vientos is another guy that's had a very, very good spring, a very impressive spring. And, you know, there's a lot of talk about the fact that he could be a guy from the right side that supplies power, that's a DH. He's certainly not going to get a lot of reps at third base, but he's showing that he's matured as a hitter, and he's going to be somebody that we're going to have to take a look at during the season this season. We started AAA. Very impressive spring.
DJ Stewart now with runners at the corners. Canna leads off third, I should say, and Vientos off first.
By the way, just subtly, that was a nice job of base running right there by Beatty with 2 outs to take that extra base. When it was in front of him, they've scouted Jordan Walker. Doesn't have a strong arm, and he took advantage of it right there and got the scoring position.
Stewart lacing one to right field, and that one gets by the right fielder, Scott Hurst. 1 run is in. Vientos around third. Stewart's around second. This could be an inside the park home run, but no, they dig it out, and he holds up at third with a 2-run triple, and the Mets are pouring it on here in the first inning. It's 5-0.
Well, Dakota Hudson continuing his rough spring. Tres Barrera tried to go out and calm him down, but can't do anything about making mistakes. When you're making mistakes, big league hitters are going to get to you, and these guys, especially, have been having good springs, feeling confident at the plate, and they're taking advantage of the mistakes he's making.
Francisco Alvarez trying to keep the inning going. Mets have 5 in on 5 hits.
Stewart watching it. Now he realizes it's gotten by him, and he's thinking, hey, I'm going to dig. Cut those bases. Come on, send me. Nah, all right, I'll stick with the triple.
He's a big man, motoring around the bases there. As impressive a spring as this has been for both Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty, it has been a bit of an offensive struggle for Francisco Alvarez. He comes into the game hitting just a $130 this spring, 3 for 23.
Well, he's a guy that I don't think they're going to pay much attention to spring at bats as much as they are watching him behind the plate. Obviously, that's the place that he needs to show improvement. He's shown enough that he's going to be a quality big league hitter at some point. Just a matter of where you're going to put him on the field.
I wonder if that offseason ankle surgery had any effect on Alvarez and just trying to get back and get comfortable up there at the plate, especially with all the attention on him. #1 prospect in the Mets organization and considered to be pretty much a can't-miss prospect. That one hit in the air out to center field. Oscar Mercado has a beat on it, settles under, and that is the third out here in the first inning. But the Mets put up a 5 spot. It's 5-0 heading to the second. Introducing the Mets triple play. It's a 3-game steal. Bundle 3 games and get 20% off your entire purchase. Get yours now at Mets.com/triple play. Top of the second down here at Port St. Lucie. The Mets with a 5-0 lead. Andrew Knizner leads things off for St. Louis in the away second. It's Knizner, Barrera, and Mercado due up against David Peterson. Line foul down the right field line. Knizner is somebody who not only struggling this spring, but trying to find a way to hit at a more consistent level in the big leagues. Just 4 for 31 this spring, but he's hit at every level in the minors. It just has not translated up in the big leagues. What's the biggest challenge there, Todd?
Well, sometimes mentally you think there's a big jump between AAA and the big leagues, and you start to do things differently.
Out to right field. That's where Starling Marte is. Angles over. 1 down.
And I would just, to follow that up, I think there's also, when you get to the big leagues, if the big league pitchers find a weakness, they can exploit it much more consistently than the guys in the minor leagues. So you've got to be able to make adjustments all the time as a big league hitter.
Knizner, the DH today. Trace Barrera does the catching, and he steps in right now. Barrera played 51 games with the Nationals over the last 3 years. We know that Wilson Contreras is going to be the opening day starting catcher for the Cardinals. He was one of their big offseason moves coming over from the Chicago Cubs. The question is, who's going to back him up? Will it be Barrera? Will it be Knizner? Will they go out and try and get somebody? That one is fouled away just to our right.
Lucky fan in the first row grabs that one.
Barrera holds up. Don't forget it was Yadier Molina so many years behind the plate in St. Louis. So they replaced Molina and Albert Pujols in St. Louis this year. 2 of the all-time greats who have now retired. 3-1 pitch. That one's fouled away again, and the count goes full. Yadier Molina, what a career. 2-time World Series champion, the 9 gold gloves, 10 times an all-star.
He just had something else intangible about him, too. He was a leader on the field. He'd come up with the big hits when you needed him. He could calm down a pitcher, a veteran, or get something more out of a young pitcher. He just had a lot of intangibles behind the plate.
That's the second walk now that David Peterson has issued in the game. One of the things when David first came up, his inability to trust all his stuff and to attack hitters, but he's worked very hard on that as Oscar Mercado fouls away the first pitch.
Yeah, I think it's something that's pretty much in the rear view. He might lose the plate a little bit once in a while, but he's got more confidence with all 3 pitches, and he's not pitching around the plate like he did early on. He's pitching through the plate and not afraid of contact. He's also another guy that's not going to be affected by the pitch clock. He works quickly. Sometimes you got to slow him down, actually. He works really, really quickly.
Oscar Mercado takes a big swing, loses the bat.
Well, there's one of those secondary pitches right there. That was Nice changeup right there, and he's out in front of it, swings through it, and can't hang on to the bat. He was looking fastball right there and trying to go downtown.
Peterson ahead 0-2 on Mercado, who broke into the big leagues back in 2019 with Cleveland. Played in 115 games that year, but he hasn't played more than 72 in any season since then. Mercado did hit 15 home runs, knocked in 54 runs in that first year with the Indians at the time, now the Guardians, as that one is fouled back. "62 degrees at game time. This is the chilliest day we've had, I think, this spring.
So chilly that I was not smart enough to bring something with long sleeves out of gear, although you outsmarted me with that SNY coat. Nicely done.
Just for the record, I did offer in solidarity not to wear it, as that one is flied out into right field, where Starling Marte comes in, has it measured, and that's out number 2. Yeah, the hood up on the sweatshirt.
They're prepared. Oh, blankets, hoodies. You got it.
Still eating the ice cream, though,
yeah. Well,
despite the chill in the air.
You can't not eat ice cream, Garrett. You eat ice cream even when it's freezing cold, of course.
I understand. Scott Hurst now the batter for the Cardinals with 2 outs. Hurst is still looking for his first hit of the spring. He's 0 for 5 coming in today. So the extreme shifts have been banned. We know that, but we can see that Danny Mendick is playing up the middle. You've got to be to the side of second base, but he is shifted over towards
they're definitely still. I mean, what that leaves open is that bunt, like we saw in the first inning, because Beatty's so far back.
Peterson ahead 0-2. That one missing outside. It's 1-2.
Obviously now with 2 strikes, you don't have to worry about that. But even to start this at bat, they're giving Hurst that third base line if he wanted to lay down a bunt. As a number 9 hitter, it's maybe not a bad play when you're down 5 runs.
Barrera leads off first, being held on by Vientos. And the count goes even at 2-2.
As far as David wants to go right here, doesn't want to go 3-2, 3-2, and let the runner get a head start. Best pitch right now.
Here's the 2-2 pitch, fouled back. I saw that Tommy Edman was back for the Cardinals yesterday, as players are beginning, as their teams are eliminated from the World Baseball Classic, are beginning to filter back. From what I understand, Francisco Lindor is going to be back with the Mets tomorrow. And then there's the reacclimation process. Guys don't immediately get put back into the lineup.
Especially considering that spring training is about getting ready for the regular season. The guys that have been playing the WBC had to get it cranked up a little earlier than they normally would, and they've played baseball games, meaningful baseball games, all the way along the line, so they can take it a little easier right now as they coast into the end of the spring.
Hurst, did he hold up? Yes, he did. So the count goes full.
We saw him drop a 3-2 slider earlier in the game. Will he do it right now? Try to get the strikeout. Runner's going to be moving on the pitch.
And that is the 3rd walk here issued by David Peterson, and we're just in the 2nd inning. In his first appearance, he walked 1 this spring, and then 2 in his second, 1 in his last one, and now he's walked 3 here so far today. And that does drive Buck Showalter a little crazy.
It does, but he's working fast. He hasn't really been doing it in a point that gets him in trouble right there. he fought off a couple of good 2-strike pitches, and then he tried to strike him out with a slider and missed.
Back to the top of the lineup, and I believe Peterson did not go into the windup in time, and so that is a ball to make it 1-0. So you've got to be in your windup by the time the clock strikes 0. Otherwise, it is a time violation, and it is a ball. That one sliced down the third baseline. Beatty gets over there, races to the bag, steps on third, and gets there before Barrera. Still, David Peterson between innings chatting it up with Glenn Sherlock, the catching coach, and also with Jeremy Hefner, and he was not happy when he came back to the dugout as he slams his glove down.
Yeah, it could be a number of things. He could be a little unhappy about the 3 walks. It seemed like maybe he was unhappy with the time violation, whether he thought maybe he was on time or is just mad at himself for allowing for that ball to be charged.
Top of the lineup for the Mets here in the second as they sent 9 men to the plate and scored 5 runs in the first inning. Danny Mendick got it going for the Mets with his first home run of the spring. It's Mendick, Guillorme, and Marte due up for the Mets here in the top of the second. Mendick into right field. That's his second hit of the game, so a strong start here for Danny Mendick, the homer and the single.
Well, that's somebody that's feeling locked in. You get a fastball running in the first time and stay on top of it and hit it for a line drive home run, and then get the slider out over the plate and hit it to right field. That's a guy that's feeling pretty good at the plate.
Well, Danny Mendick has struggled a little bit offensively this spring. Came in just 2 for 12, but he's got a track record. He's put up some good numbers in the past. White Sox season ago, before he got hurt, says he's 100% healthy and is pushing to at least be in the conversation. Going to be tough for him to make the club out of spring, but somebody I think we will see on numerous occasions with the Mets this year. Luis Guillorme doubled in the first inning. Takes a called strike, and the count is even at 1-1. Dakota Hudson, his rookie year back in 2019, had a very good rookie season, finished 5th in the National League Rookie of the Year voting. Guillorme fouled down the left field line. His career numbers are solid, 32 and 17. What a luxury it is to have a guy like Luis Guillorme. Can do so many things, move around the infield. He's become a much better hitter. One of the few guys who doesn't wear batting gloves. And he's not the only one on this Mets team who doesn't. Tim LeCastro, also a part of that very small fraternity. And Guillorme swings at strike 3. He goes down. So coming off the last half inning, we were wondering, and not to speculate here, David Peterson, as he's coming off the mound, is looking at his left hand and shaking it as maybe not that comfortable.
Yeah, it looked like he was rubbing his finger and his thumb together, and what if there just could be a little rough spot, but it did look like he was annoyed. And then we saw him follow through when he got into the dugout and fire his glove down and was not happy with himself.
Starling Marte with Danny Mendick leading off first. Marte's got to back away from that one. With Nimmo not in the lineup at the moment and unsure, although he says he thinks he's going to be back for opening day. Now, Marte is a potential option to move to center field, but he's been pretty adamant that he wants to stay and remain in right field. That went off the fists into shallow right field. Donovan's not going to get there. Either is Hurst. And it's a single for Starling Marte. Luis Guillorme, good piece of base running. He had to hold up for a moment and then slide safely into second. So first and second with one out.
It's Mendick, just to be clear. Luis struck out.
I'm sorry, yes.
No, that's fine. Mendick, it's a good point. It is. You see him halfway right there. He's got a read. Looked like he was going to get down, but the ball hung up a little bit, and you don't want to get hung out to dry there. So good job of base running and getting into second base safely and giving Marte that base hit.
Daniel Vogelbach, who grounded sharply out to second base in his first at bat. Vogelbach figures to be the Mets' regular DH from the left side. Trying to inflict more damage here on Dakota Hudson, who has struggled out of the gate. Hudson gave up 5 hits and 5 runs in the first inning, also walked a batter. And now he's given up 2 singles here in the second. That's in there for a called strike. Vogelbach into center field. Mercado barely has to move. Mercado makes the catch, and Mendick tags but doesn't go anywhere. That was hit sharply again by Daniel Vogelbach. Mark Canha, an RBI single and scored in the first inning. Canha is somebody who really enjoys playing in New York. Lives in the city, lives on the upper portions of town, and I don't want to give his address away, but he lives in the city. We know that.
Yeah, and he enjoys what the city has to offer.
Well, big league foodie, right? His Instagram account.
Yeah, and he has some good, interesting spots that he finds. Right now, he's going to try to find a spot through that right side of the infield. They've moved to the center for him in a big hole over there.
2 on, 2 out.
And I think we talked about this before, Gary, that Canha is trying to generate more power this season, something he was disappointed with last season. But he was a guy that also early in the season really found his way to drive in runs and get base hits through that right side. With the shift now being banned, that right side stays open for him as it is right now.
1-2. Canha takes one outside. So with a base runner and 2 base runners on, the pitch clock is at 20 seconds. 15 seconds with nobody on, 20 seconds with a base runner on. Mendick off second, Marte off first. Little check swing back to the pitcher. Hudson handles it easily, underhand toss, and on to first. So the Mets leave a couple. It's still 5-0. Time for us right now to go around the majors, presented by CDW, and bad news for the Houston Astros. And it's not just the Mets who have been snake bit by the WBC as we get things going here in the third inning. Jose Altuve, broken right thumb, hit in the 5th inning by Daniel Bard of the Rockies in the USA's win over Venezuela. He is out 8 to 10 weeks. So that is really tough news for the Astros and for Altuve.
Yeah, it's a big blow for the Astros, and you don't like to see any injuries in these kinds of games. I think, as I mentioned before, I think a lot of these guys would tell you that they don't mind the risk.
Jordan Walker, the high chopper. Beatty crosses body. Nice play by Beatty to get the first out on the speedy Walker.
That was a nice play by Beatty. It's one of the things we talked about. He's having a very good spring, but this is a big part of why his spring has been so good. He's been working hard on his defense out there every day, improving his range, strong throw on the run. Nicely done.
Well, Beatty spent time this offseason working with Troy Tulowitzki, who's a Gold Glover, was a Gold Glover. And Tulowitzki talked about the athleticism that Beatty has that really stuck out to him.
He's a big kid. He's got those long arms and legs, and he's able to range. It just was a matter of him getting his first step a little bit quicker. And I think what you saw right there was the baseball clock. That's something that for a third baseman you've really got to work on, knowing how much time you have so you don't make unforced errors, and that was a great example of it right there.
Nolan Gorman goes down looking at a called third strike. Second strikeout of the day here for David Peterson.
Yeah, we talked about that baseball clock. Third basemen really need that as much as anything. He sees he's got the ability to get to third and beat that runner. Doesn't try to overrun it, doesn't try to do anything fancy. Makes sure he looks it into his glove and then gets to the bag. Something that you'll watch, really good third baseman. David Wright was excellent at it. Nolan Arenado is as good as anybody in the game at it. But it's something you do have to learn as a young player coming in. The guys are a little faster. The game moves fast. You tend to try to rush things at times when you just need to slow it down and let it happen.
Count goes to 2-1 on Taylor Motter. Well, the Mets have worked really hard with Brett Beatty. He's put in the time too, but Joey Cora and Eric Chavez, Reed Brignac, they have all been working with Brett Beatty to get him to the place that, as Motter's got to back up a little bit, the place that he is right now, and then beyond that, because the game, it really does begin to slow down as you play in the big leagues and start to feel the pace of play. Peterson took something off that one.
That was a nice 3-1 changeup to get the swing and a miss. It's nice to see that there doesn't seem to be anything bothering his hand or finger at this point. He's throwing the ball well.
(3-2) in there for a called third strike. Back-to-back strikeouts for David Peterson in the third. A much better inning for David. Still 5-zip. Beatty, Vientos, and Stewart due up for the Mets here in the home third. Beatty walked and scored in the first inning. How often does it happen that you spend a lot of time talking about somebody, and then here they come up to bat to lead off the inning?
Somebody like our colleague would say about 1 out of every 9 times. But it does seem to happen at times. Make a great play, you're going to lead off the inning, right? Isn't that what they say?
Yep. Beatty, 23 years old. He's 6'3", 210 pounds. And he goes down swinging for the first out here in the third.
Got the two-seamer coming in here, and he gets a little late movement right there, just sinks underneath the barrel right there. Beatty trying to get the barrel on it just to protect, but nice pitch with ahead in the count.
Mark Vientos began the day tied for 10th in the majors with 10 RBIs, and he knocked one in to make it 11 in the first inning. Holds up on that swing.
Well, I think the Vientos, the upside on him, and you saw it in the first inning, he waited on a breaking ball to drive in that run. He's got great opposite field power. Doesn't have to pull to drive the ball out of the ballpark. And as big and strong as he is, if he can wait like he did that first time, that's going to give him an opportunity to put a lot of balls in play.
Versatility is one of those key words. We talk about it over and over again. And as I mentioned, he can play third base. He can play first base. He can play some outfield. 3-1, fouled away. Mets going to open the season 11 days from today against the Miami Marlins down in Miami. Up high and the count goes full.
Now that's actually ball 4.
Take it back? Yes,
Yep.
indeed.
He delayed a little bit. I think Vientos may have wanted another pitch. He wanted to stay in there and hit.
DJ Stewart, who had that 2-run triple in the first inning, now with 1 on and 1 out. Bounced wide of first. The Cardinals have not brought many regulars today, but when they are at full strength, they're a really good defensive team. That's been one of their calling cards over the years. They led the majors last year in fielding percentage. Arenado down at third, Goldschmidt at first. Goldschmidt coming off an MVP season. Count is even here at 1-1 on Stewart. That one up and away. Arenado won a Gold Glove season ago, as did Brendan Donovan as the utility Gold Glove, something that Buck Showalter thought Luis Guillorme had a really good shot at. '93 and '69 Cardinals a season ago. As I mentioned, Goldschmidt the MVP, Albert Pujols his final season. 24 home runs, hit that historic 700th homer. Stewart laces one into right field in front of Hurst. Vientos waltzes into second, and the Mets are in business. First and second and 1 out here in the third.
This ball, he brings his hands in. You can see that cutter trying to get in on Stewart right there. And he does a good job just getting the level swing, getting the barrel on the baseball. Good 2-strike hit.
Francisco Alvarez flied to center field in his first at bat. He's got 2 on here and a chance to do some damage. First pitch swinging once again. Pops it up, this one to the right side, and Donovan settles under it. Infield fly roll, 2 down.
Number 15, shortstop, Danny Mendick.
So the lineup turns over, and Danny Mendick up for the 3rd time. He's had a really good day so far. Led off with a homer in the first inning and then singled in the second. Bounce down to third. That's Gorman who steps on the bag, and that wraps up the inning. Still 5-0 as we head to the 4th. Alec Burleson leads things off here for the Cardinals in the 4th inning, facing off against David Peterson, who's thrown 53 pitches so far, 52 pitches, 32 of those 4 strikes. And he begins by going up and out of the zone here to lead things off in the 4th. Burleson, Kisner, Barrera due up for the Cardinals. Bounced wide of first.
There's a curveball right there from David Peterson, and I thought it's worth noting he ended the last inning with another caught-looking strikeout on a curveball, and it's unusual for him to throw a 3-2 curveball. It shows that he's got a lot of confidence in all 4 of his pitches now.
2-2 pitch, head on the ground down to Vientos at first. He's going to flip to Peterson. 1 down. So there's the manager of the Mets, Buck Showalter, embarking on his second season as the Mets skipper. One of the things he spoke about this week was the infields can be a little bit hard, and we see the guys, the crew out there between innings dragging the infield. That the lack of rain has made the infields hard, and he thought that might have played into the injury to Brandon Nimmo, whose spike caught in the dirt on Friday night.
He's telling his buddy Al Leiter right there. Al Leiter in the dugout today with Buck. I'm sure Al's got some interesting commentary, always does.
Kisner to shortstop. Mendick charges, a lot of time, 2 down. Al Leiter, we got to look at the numbers. You played a lot of seasons. Al played 19 seasons in the big leagues, won a couple of World Series, Blue Jays and the Marlins, 2-time All-Star, 162 wins. I was a big fan of Al Leiter's. I thought he was big time out there on the mound.
He's one of my favorite teammates, and I'm sure he's a guy that they're discussing David Peterson right now, because Al is one of those guys that probably has great insights as to help a guy like David who's figuring it out. Al had some control issues at times, but the thing that I bet he brings as much as anything else is just the mental part of the game. He was very, very tough, very, very competitive. He always wanted the baseball, and you couldn't ask for a better guy as a teammate to go take the hill in a big game. You knew that he was going to give you everything he had, and that's the kind of thing that he can instill to some of these young guys trying to still figure it out at this level.
It's great to see him in uniform in the dugout. Toms River, New Jersey native. They played on both sides of town, but I always think of Al as a Met. I think he thinks of himself as a Met. Trace Barrera works out a 2-out walk, and that's the 4th walk of the afternoon for David Peterson. Al does such a great job over on MLB Network. Become a great analyst. Understands the game, understands pitching. Oscar Mercado flied out to right in his only at bat today. I think it's great to see so many of the guys who have been in camp. David Wright was here earlier. Seeing Al here today. 77 on the curve there by David Peterson.
By David, yeah. Got up on top of that one. I don't like that he backed off the mound right there. That doesn't look. Going to probably get a close to the time here.
Barely gets into the windup. Again, you've got to get into the windup before the clock strikes 0. He gets the strikeout to the chagrin of Oscar Mercado. 4th shutout for Peterson. Luis Guillorme leads things off for the Mets in the bottom of the 4th inning, facing off against Dakota Hudson. It's been a tough go for Hudson so far in 3 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, all of those earned, couple of walks and 2 strikeouts. Guillorme goes the opposite way into left field, and that is a fair ball. Guillorme around first. Walker digs it out, and a stand-up double for Luis Guillorme, his 2nd double of the afternoon.
Well, no matter what you do to this guy, you can't defense this. He goes out and gets the ball sinking away from him, doesn't try to pull it, and flips it down the left field line. Nothing you can do about that. Great job batting right there for Luis.
Starling Marte now with a man on second and nobody out. Marte 1 for 2, grounded out to short, and then singled in the 2nd. Marte slicing one out of play down the right field line.
It almost looked like Marte was trying to shoot it through that hole on the right side. Advanced Louis, because he stayed inside that fastball like he was trying to shoot it out to right field. Big hole over there at second base. Chance to get Louis over.
Hudson ahead on Marte, 0-2. To shortstop. Motter can't make the play. It sneaks through, and so it's a single for Marte, and Guillorme hesitated for a moment, had to stay at second.
Kind of a tough read. When you're at second base, you're taught if the ball's hit behind you, you automatically go. If it's hit in front of you, you have to be respectful of the play being made. But he didn't know exactly where Motter was playing, and he's kicking himself a little bit because his first instinct to go was the right one. But they'll take no outs, 2 men on.
Daniel Vogelback takes ball 1. What was the right play there? I know it's a tough read, but what was the play to go?
The play,
especially with a tough play from Motter,
and it's in front of you, you're supposed to stay right there, especially with nobody out. You don't want to get your out at third base. If he happened to be there.
Vogelback into center field. Mercado coming in. Now it drifts over to left field, and Walker makes the catch for the first out.
Yeah, so the rule of thumb is, especially with nobody out, you got to make sure the ball's hit behind you to advance on a ground ball. And especially if it's hit hard in front of you, if the shortstop's there, he can get you out at third base, and you never want to make that first or third out at third base. So he probably did the right thing by holding up, and it just happened that when it went off Motter's glove, it seemed like, oh, darn, I should have been there.
Does the equation ever change depending on what the score is? If you've got a big lead like 5-0, will you be more aggressive?
Yeah, you can be a little bit more aggressive, but the key really is you've got to take a look at those infielders every single pitch. Infielders move around a lot now at the big league level, and they're not just stationary, so you got to know exactly where they are so you know if the ball is going to be hit to them. And Joey Cora is one of the best third base coaches in the game, and I'm sure he's reminding Louis, as he does to all the guys, where those outfielders are playing, where the infielders are playing, and reminds the runners themselves, take a look, know where they are, know how many outs there are, know where the fielders are.
Just as you said that, I saw Guillorme look over his shoulder into center field, see exactly where Mercado was. Do you take stock of that on every pitch?
You're supposed to, and it's something that I think is very effective. Good base runners are not necessarily the guys with the best speed. Good base runners have instincts, know where the outfielders are, know right off the bat whether the ball is going to fall, and they should try that.
Canna, line drive to short. Motter makes the catch. Thought about trying to throw to second, so that is the second out.
As we were saying that, Louis got lucky right there. I mean, because as we were saying that, if he'd have known exactly where Motter was right there, Louis took 2 steps towards third base and would have been hung out to dry if Motter could have gotten out of his glove. I think Louis shaking his head a little bit right now, thinking, oh, almost made 2 mistakes.
So that's going to be it for Dakota Hudson. Zach Thompson will be the new pitcher for the Cards. So Luis Guillorme stayed on second base on that line drive by Mark Canna, but you were saying you thought he got fortunate.
Well, yeah, he did. You see him, he takes a step towards third, and if Motter could have gotten that ball out of his glove, he would have been doubled off a second. On that play right there, you've got to freeze on a line drive, and once again, it goes to knowing exactly where those fielders are. And look, if that ball short hops him and he's thrown out at third, so be it. That would have been the case anyway, but you got to freeze and not get doubled off right there. He got lucky that he dropped the ball.
Zach Thompson, new pitcher here for the Cardinals, facing off against Brett Beatty, who takes ball 1. Thompson, a 2019 first-round selection of the Cardinals out of the University of Kentucky, so he's a Wildcat. Very good on the road last season. 15 road appearances, had an ERA of .40.
Yeah, Cardinals like him. Was talking to Ricky Horton, one of the Cardinals broadcasters and a former teammate of mine earlier today. He said they like him. He's improved his velocity, and he's got a big hammer, big overhand curveball that's very, very effective.
Checks his swing, and it's 1-2. Not a great outing here today for Dakota Hudson. Got the start for the Cardinals, 3 2/3, 10 hits, walked a couple, 77 pitches. Gave up the 5 runs, and he's responsible for the 2 base runners, Guillorme and Marte. Beatty walked and then struck out. Grounds one to shortstop. That's Motter. Makes the play, and the Mets strand 2. It's 5-0 Mets. Don't miss a single Mets moment with the SNY app. Scan the code and download today. The Atlantic Ocean here along the Treasure Coast. David Robertson is the new pitcher as he takes over for David Peterson.
David Robertson, a big offseason pickup for these Mets. Maybe a guy that's going to be relied upon in that closing role. And just one of those guys that's very effective against left-handers. An unusual thing for a right-hander. He's got reverse splits, so it's like he's got an extra lefty in the bullpen, Buck said, with David Robertson.
He faces Scott Hurst to lead things off here in the 5th inning. We knew Robertson, who, by the way, negotiated his own contract, did it himself, no agent, 1 year, $10 million. We know he was an important signing for the Mets, and he becomes all that much more important as Hurst slices one down to third, and Beatty, with no problem, fires across for the first out. So yes, comes over, thinks he's going to be one of the setup guys along with Adam Ottavino for Edwin Diaz, and all of a sudden his role. And he said it doesn't matter to him when he pitches, that the outs are just as big in the 7th and the 8th and the 9th. But certainly the spotlight does now shine a little bit brighter on David Robertson.
Can never have too much pitching depth. We've talked about it 100 times. Especially in that bullpen. That's where difference is made in September and October. He's a guy that's got big league experience. He's got playoff experience. He's got valuable experience, whether he's a setup man or a closer. And he's a guy that they're going to rely on a lot this season.
20 saves a season ago between the Cubs and the Phillies. 37 years old now. He's talked about the fact that he's not quite the same power pitcher he was.
And he's always had a little bit of sneak to his fastball as a power pitcher. I mean, he's 91, 92 miles an hour, but it plays a little harder than that because of his little delay and then that short arm fastball that rides up in the zone. He can get it past guys at the top of the zone, even at 92.
Donovan stays alive. It's now 2-2 still. What about your thought, Todd, on who the guy is, that 9th inning guy? We know Buck Showalter likes to find roles in that bullpen. He's not afraid to use his closer in the 7th or the 8th inning, but who's your guy to close out games at this moment?
I think right now it's going to be David Robertson. I think that, I don't know necessarily, as you can see, Donovan flies out to center right here, the second out. I don't think that Buck is going to determine an absolute closer. Edwin Diaz was the closer. I think now it's closer by committee. I think Buck has the flexibility to use a few guys in the role depending on situations, and it's something that Buck, I think, can manage as well or better than anybody else in baseball. The way he managed the bullpen last year was a work of art.
Robertson getting ahead of Jordan Walker, who's 0 for 2. Walker 6'5", not going to turn 21 until May the 22nd. He's had a very good spring so far. Came in today hitting .378, 3 homers. Put up big numbers at Double-A last season for the Cardinals at .306 in Double-A.
What's interesting about Walker, he's a smart young man. I think his father was an MIT grad and his mother from Harvard. So He's a smart young man, but did sign out of high school. And the Cardinals like what they see out of him. And they think he might, make a bid to be the left fielder coming out of camp. But, there is a business involved here as well. And so they're being, I think, non-committal, at least at this point.
Non-committal, but I think he is going to be their opening day left. I mean, one scout said this about Jordan Walker: electric bat speed, light tower power, no holes in the swing, potential National League Rookie of the Year.
Right, which all can still happen after 30 days in the minor leagues, and the ability to keep control of that kind of prospect for another year. So this is still a business. They've said, hey, they're going to take the best 26 out of camp. And it's going to be hard to deny that he's going to be one of those guys.
In the air to center field, driving back Mark Canha, who now has a beat. He's got to come back in, and Canha cannot make the catch. Walker keeps on running, and he's in safely to second base. So Mark Canha broke back on that ball first and then tried to come in on it, and he couldn't get there, and it dropped in front of him.
Well, there's a lot of wind up there. You don't really necessarily know it off the bat, but that ball was hit pretty well, and Canha went back thinking he was going to have to catch that one on the track. By the time he looked up and saw it, the wind was blowing it hard back in, and he was never able to quite catch back up to it. Almost got it on the shoestring, but wasn't quite able to make that play. I'm wondering why he has the dark glasses. I wonder if those cut some of the glare, Garrett, because it's definitely not sunny out there. And he breaks it back again, and now you can see him. Uh-oh, the panic is setting in because he knows the wind has got it. Wasn't able to quite get back there.
Nolan Gorman has struck out in each of his first two at-bats, and now Francisco Alvarez going to have a chat with David Robertson, who, by the way, in a pretty good piece with those Q&As that Steve Serby does in the New York Post. Our friend Steve Serby. Robertson says he does not love I think he's messing around with his pitch comm right now, but he does not like the pitch clock at all. He was pretty outspoken about that.
Yeah, I think they're going to signs now, which is one of the reasons that I think Alvarez went out there. Doesn't have the pitch comm working for him. It's unusual to hear a pitcher say that they don't like the pitch clock. Most pitchers don't mind it. They think the pressure's on the hitter, that they mostly work fast enough anyway, and it gives them the ability to dictate the pace of the game.
Gorman, well hit, out to right field. Marte going back, looking up, and that one is a fair ball. It is gone. A two-run homer for Nolan Gorman, and the Cardinals are on the board, cutting the lead to 5-2. Well, the manager, Buck Showalter, is now making his way out onto the field. I'm not sure that Buck thought that was a fair ball. The wind got a hold of it. The wind is blowing out towards right field. Let's get another look at this as the umpires confer.
Hard to tell from that angle because we're not right down the line. That ball was well hit, obviously, and was fair most of the way. The wind was pushing it towards the line. Looks like they're satisfied. The other umpires are satisfied that it was a fair ball.
So a two-run home run off the bat of Nolan Gorman. That's his third home run of the spring. Now has 11 RBIs for the Cardinals this spring. Nobody knows the rules better. I am always amazed at Buck Showalter's not only knowledge of the game, but his feel for the game, knows the rules about as well as anybody, and uses those rules to his advantage during the course of the season.
He's always prepared. Yeah, there's nothing ever that takes Buck by surprise.
You think some of that could be Buck trying to protect his pitcher?
I mean, he may want to at least show that it wasn't an obvious one. It wasn't a no-brainer. And considering that he should have been out of the inning with the fly ball to Canna that leads to a double and a home run, maybe just going out to give him a bit of a breath and say, hey, maybe that ball was actually foul. But I don't think it's going to have any impact on Robertson. He knows this is spring training. He knows he's getting his work in. Gorman put a good swing on that one. And if the wind hadn't been blowing the way it was, it probably would have been, you know, a fair ball and well out of here as well.
Alec Burleson 0 for 2 on the day. Fouls one away. Buck Showalter, as that graphic showed a moment ago, 4 times now manager of the year. Still looking for that elusive first World Series title, which is something that he has spoken about early in spring that he would like to get. And why not, with all the things that he has done in his career? That's the one thing on the mantle that hasn't been put up there yet. Bouncing one down to Vientos. Steps on the bag, but the Cardinals get 2. The home run by Nolan Gorman, and it's 5-2. Mark Vientos leads things off for the Mets in the bottom of the 5th inning. Has to back off on the fastball from Zach Thompson, who works in relief of Dakota Hudson, who went 3 2/3, 10 hits and 5 runs. Vientos, Stewart, Alvarez due up for the Mets here in the 5th inning. Cardinals bullpen is going to be one of their strengths this season. Their starting pitching has some holes in it, but Vientos goes down swinging.
Well, that's what we heard about Zach Thompson. He's stepped it up a little bit with his velocity. That one, he went 92, 93 in the first couple of pitches and then pumped it up to 96 up in the zone. Tough at bat for Vientos.
Been a very good day for DJ Stewart, who tripled and knocked in a couple of runs in the 1st inning and then singled in the 3rd. Will hit out to right field. Hurst not going to get there. It drops in. Stewart around first, on his way to second, and so what has been a good day gets even a little bit better for DJ Stewart. He's now just a home run away from the cycle. Triple, single, and double.
And I can tell you, he knows it. You don't get many opportunities to hit for the cycle, so when you've got 3 hits in your first 3 at-bats, he's like, I'm going to get the second on this one. Then all I need to do is go deep. He's digging the whole way. Nice at-bats against a tough left-hander right there. He's a little out in front, but still able to get it down the line.
Francisco Alvarez looking for his first home run of the spring.
Notice last at bat, Alvarez looked to me like he's pressing a little bit. Big uppercut coming off the ball a tiny bit. Maybe just trying to do a little bit too much with all the talk.
He's now 3 for 25 so far this spring, and I think it's got to be tough for him when you think about the job that Mauricio has done this spring, and Vientos and Beatty. Those are your core 4, those young players who are so highly regarded. So you might be right. You might be pressing a little bit. Bounces one to the left side. Gorman fires a little bit up the line. Alvarez wasn't sure if Burleson stayed on the bag, but that's the second out.
It goes to the same point. A little bit bigger swing. Takes his time, throws, but just inside the line, but he's still on the bag, and then comes off after the play is already made.
And don't forget, the bags are bigger, and one of the reasons they made them bigger is to cut down on injuries on plays a little bit like that as Danny Mendick steps in.
Especially with the right-handed first baseman, because they'll have to field that ball and coming in and oftentimes try to make the sweep tag, and you've seen guys get injured on those plays. I think it's a good thing that the bigger base.
As a former first baseman, is it something you would have liked?
Yeah, I think especially because I wasn't a natural first baseman. I had to learn that position. That was one of the toughest things for me to learn, was that swipe tag and knowing when not to get in the runner's way. And Keith Hernandez did a great job helping me figure out that sometimes you just got to let the ball go. You got to figure out a way to get yourself out of harm's way and run and get it. I was always trying to reach out and find a way to, make that great play, and sometimes you just put yourself in harm's way. So I like what they've done there, and I think it was an easy fix and something that creates a little bit more excitement in the game as well.
Mendick up the middle. Donovan on to first for the third out. 5-2 Mets. Tyler McGill is the third pitcher of the afternoon for the Mets, following David Peterson and David Robertson. It's been a good spring so far for Tyler McGill.
Yeah, Tyler is the other guy that is going to be vying for that fifth rotation spot. Obviously, was very good as the ground ball to second base. Yorme scoops it up, but Tyler looks like he's in great shape. He's leaner. You can see that he's dropped some pounds and very thin in his face. This guy that with the injury to his shoulder last year, I don't think he was quite right when he finished the season. And it's going to be interesting to watch he and David battle it out, but you're going to rely on this guy sometime this season.
Trace Barrera takes a called first strike. Barrera has walked each of his first two at-bats today. McGill mainly fastball, slider, mixes in a changeup. He can bring it 96, 97 miles per hour.
And that's one of the things that's, I think is perplexing about him. As he said last year, he wanted to break triple digits. Thought he looked like he was overthrowing at times. And with the issues that he's had with his shoulder, that's something I think he's going to have to get under control. I don't think he's quite as effective at 93 to 95 unless he has some improvement to his secondary stuff. So I think that's the big challenge for McGill.
Got off to that great start, right? And started opening day for the Mets.
He did. He did. And then, I think he just really became more dominant with his fastball when he had that high velo going. You can see a very definite uptick in his velocity from 94, 95 to 97 to 99. And that made a difference to him. But with the shoulder injury, something that he has to be a little more under control. He looks like he's under control this spring, not trying to overthrow and making sure that he's getting some use out of those good secondary pitches.
That one just misses. And so Barrera works out his third walk of the afternoon.
That looked pretty good right there. I think you see Alvarez trying to bring it in. Maybe it was just off the outside corner. Barrera wasn't quite sure. McGill thought it was a strike, but man on first.
Well, we saw Barrera look back at the home plate umpire, Clint Bondrak, to see exactly what he was thinking. I think he was pretty unsure about it. So Cardinals have a base runner here in the sixth inning. Oscar Mercado.
If there's anything you learn as a young player, don't try to be an umpire up there and anticipate that ball four. I'd like to call you back on that one. So we did the right thing by checking with him first.
Tyler McGill is a big guy, 6'7", 230 pounds, 27 years old, and Mercado gets tied up in there. Ends up on his derriere.
Shaking his head. He decided he was going to swing at that pitch before it was released, and then it just kept running in on his hands, and he wanted to hold up, but no chance. Man, he had his leg tucked underneath him as well. That didn't look very pretty.
Oh, bounce down to first. Vientos steps on the bag, throws to second, and it is in time. They get Barrera. So Vientos starts a very nice double play. Mets lead the Cardinals 5-2 as we go to the bottom of the sixth inning here in Port St. Lucie at Clover Park. Really nice job there by Vientos. Very calm on the double play.
Yeah, we talked about having a good baseball clock. As a third baseman, he's probably got that a little bit, and he calmly steps on first, throws inside the runner, and gets the tag out at second base because he had already gotten the force at first.
Luis Guillorme leads things off for the Mets here in the sixth inning. The new pitcher for the Cardinals is Packy Naughton, the lefty, 26 years old.
What a name. Packy Naughton.
Great name.
Yeah, it seems like a hockey name. Packy seems like a Boston kind of hockey name. This guy had some time with the Cardinals last season as well. 26 years old. Lefty sinker, fastball slider. Going to be a guy that needs to get left-handers out.
Guillorme rolls over one. Naughton grabs it himself onto the bag for the first out.
Nice athletic play for Packy.
Number 6 right fielder, Starling Marte.
Well, Naughton is a Boston guy. Went to Boston Latin High School.
He's been drafted by the Reds, 9th round in 2017. A little time with the Angels in 2021 before spending some time with the Cardinals last season.
So Boston Latin High School. How about the alumni list of that school? Samuel Adams,
okay.
Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock, William Hooper, Robert Trent Payne.
Sounds like the Founding Fathers High School right there.
Yep, as well as 8 former Massachusetts governors, several prominent architects, historians, politicians, and military figures.
And a Major League Baseball player.
Yes. Starling Marte has a couple of hits on the day. Marte is going to be very, very important for this Mets team this year, as he was a season ago. Sliced out of play down the right field line against the netting over there. I think one of the best things Major League Baseball has done. I know some fans don't love it because it can at times be a little distracting, although I never find it distracting when I'm sitting in the crowd. But I think that netting all the way down the right field line from a safety standpoint has been really good for the fan experience.
Yeah, it has. I mean,
okay, I can tell you don't love it.
No, I do. I think especially past the dugout, past the camera, area.
Marte reaches out and drops one into right field. Third hit of the day, third single of the day for Starling Marte.
And he hasn't been crushing baseballs in this one, but as we saw him do a lot of times last year, especially when he got 2 strikes, finds ways to fight the ball off. And look, he just guides that one. That's when those are the ones that they say even out, right? Because you're going to hit some line drives that people sometimes during the year, but good to hit one off the end of the bat and dunk it in.
Daniel Vogelback takes a call at strike one.
So Marte looking at Naughton and saying, hey, I'm staying right here. He's like, I'm staying right here at the bag. Now he's ready. He's got the glove on. Now he can get a lead.
He does have the 1 stolen base this spring.
finish the thought, Gary. I like the net down the line. I've seen a lot of guys, a lot of people, kids, fans get hit by balls coming off the bat, and it's dangerous.
Vogelbach fouls another one away.
All I was going to say to that point is all the way down the right field line. I think that's a place where you want to get a foul ball when you're a fan, and you think you might be getting robbed on a couple of those with the high nets all the way down the line.
Makes sense. Bounce back up the middle. Motter steps on the bag, fires to first, and that is a double play. So Vogelbach retired, and we head to the 7th. Tyler McGill back out for a second inning here as we go to the top of the 7th inning. The Mets lead the Cardinals by a score of 5-2. They've pounded out a dozen hits in the game. Scott Hurst leads it off here in the 7th for the Cardinals. Mets have made some defensive changes here in the 7th inning around the infield. Jesus Baez is now the new shortstop for the Mets. Jose Peraza at second base, and Brad Malm is the new first baseman. And down goes Hurst here to lead things off in the 7th. Again, look at the upcoming schedule for the Mets. It is presented by Delta. We're back here on SNY on Wednesday. Mets going to take on the Houston Astros. And then our final 2 games over on Pix 11 next weekend. And then we get down to regular season baseball. Mets going to open the season down in Miami against the Marlins. They open on the road against the Marlins and then the Milwaukee Brewers before coming back home to open the home portion of the schedule. Back to the top of the lineup for the Cardinals. Juniel Quiracudo is the batter, his first at bat of the afternoon. And he works out a walk.
Number 67, left fielder, Jordan Walker.
Jordan Walker now for the Cardinals. He doubled in his last at bat and then scored on the home run by Gorman.
Talked about him a lot today. Still only 20 years old, and twice already the minor league player of the year for the Cardinals. Good speed for a big man as well. We look in the guide. It says he's 6'5". And we were told today by Ricky Horton, I mentioned that they measured him again this spring, and now he's 6'6". So he's still growing, Gary. He's still getting bigger.
He's a young man, still sprouting as we look at the top 5 prospects in all of baseball. Right in front of him is Francisco Alvarez of the Mets. Snap throw down to first. And we've seen that from Alvarez this spring already, and I'd like to see that.
It's good, yeah. You want to see him aggressive behind the plate. You want to see him show off his arm, and especially with the pickoff rules that there are now, you're going to see catchers, I think, taking a crack and trying to keep the guys a little bit closer at first base.
And it does give the pitcher a little bit more time to get his thoughts and gather. That was a batter timeout. That's 1 The only one that Walker gets in his at-bat. Each batter gets one timeout during the course of an at-bat. You still getting used to the new rules?
I am. I'm still getting used to it, although I don't find myself really paying attention to the clock very often. It's kind of, to me now, the pace just seems a little more like it used to be. Guys are in the box a little bit quicker, pitchers are delivering a little quicker, and there's a little more action that you're seeing in the infield, especially without the shifts as well. So I like what I've seen so far with the new rule changes.
Cuercudo leads off first. Walker. Mighty cut. Second strikeout of the inning here for Tyler McGill.
Nice tight slider by McGill right there. Got him to chase. Started on the outside corner and broke it off the plate. Good execution.
Kramer Robertson came into the game to replace Nolan Gorman. This his first at bat of the afternoon. Robertson, a native of Waco, Texas, taken in the 4th round by the Cardinals in 2017. Out of LSU.
Been impressed by Tyler's slider today. He's taking a little off it to get a little bit more downward depth, which I think is something that's important for him.
Count is even at 1-1 on Robertson. That one bounces in front of the plate, and down to second base goes Cuercudo. That'll be a wild pitch on McGill.
You will, but this is one of those things that you have to kind of wonder. That's a ball he could have blocked, right? Instead, he's trying to pick it, and that's one of the things that's a product of the catchers getting down on a knee and being in that set position, even with men on base. Look at a good pitch right there. I think Tyler thought so. I think Alvarez thought so, as did some of the fans that are surrounding us, Gary.
We can hear them loud and clear. McGill behind 3-1 on Robertson. And that one does get called a strike. And again, he dials it up there, 93 on that fastball. You talk about the fact he's taken a little bit off the fastball. He has worked quite a bit and consulted quite a bit this spring with Max Scherzer. He has really leaned on the expertise and the veteran leadership of Max Scherzer. Robertson works out a walk, second of the inning here and third of the game for McGill.
He tried that 3-2 breaking ball right there. Left it up a little bit, got under a little bit for ball 4. But I think the thing that Max, that you're talking about, that Max tells him is, hey, you don't want to go out there and spend it all in the first couple of innings, right? I think what you want, and Max is a guy that you can look at that says he's like 93, 94, 95, and then in the 7th inning when he needs it, he's got 96, 97 still left in the tank.
Motter up the middle. Peraza under his glove, can't make the play, and everybody's safe.
That was a good job of Baez backing that up, honestly. It's a ball when once you think the second baseman was going to make that play, you watch this ball. It's hit off his fist, so it's spinning, but he did a good job of still being right behind him and able to field that, because if it gets past him right here, you see him watching the ball. He thought he might have had a chance to make that play, but holds it right there, checks his runners, and makes sure that nothing else happens.
That was an error on Peraza. He was there in plenty of time. I think he just lifted his head up a little bit.
Yeah, the ball was spinning off the bat. Like I said, it was jammed, and it got inside it, so it had a little side spin, and I think that little tricky spin is what kept it from being fielded cleanly.
So the bases are loaded here for the Cardinals, who trail this game 5-2. They've got just 3 hits in the game. Burleson fights it off into left field, falls in front of Stewart. 1 run is in. In comes Robertson with the second, and the Cardinals have cut the lead to 5-4. It's a 1-run game.
Well, this is another one, not a bad pitch. Gets in on him. You see him fight it off and just flip it into left field. That wasn't a bad pitch by Tyler, but with 2 outs, runners in motion right away, 2-run single.
Interesting that David Robertson was the victim of the play out in center field where Mark Canha went back on it and then couldn't get it in front of him, and then the home run, the 2-run homer. And here Peraza commits the error, which could have ended the inning, and then the 2-run single by Alec Burleson.
I think at the end of the day, what he's going to be thinking about probably more than anything is the walk. You don't want to have a situation where you're ahead in the game and you have a 2-out walk, especially on a 2-out 3-2 breaking ball. But it is spring training. It's still things they're trying to work on. And you never want to have those walks because those oftentimes come back to bite you. And that one did. Led to the error and then the base hit and 2 RBIs.
Andrew Kisner 0 for 3 on the day. Tying run down at second now for the Cardinals. McGill took something off that one. He's ahead 0-2.
A little bit more of a curveball right there at 77 miles an hour. It's good for him to start to mix speeds with his off-speed stuff.
Bounce to the right side. Peraza backs up. The big hop, fires, gets the out. And McGill works his way out of trouble. And it's now a 5-4 game as the Mets come to bat the 7th. SNY Play Ball is back, looking to support local youth baseball and softball leagues. If you know a league in need, apply today at sny.tv/playball. We head for the bottom of the 7th inning here at Clover Park in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Gary Apple along with Todd Zeal. Chris Stratton is the new pitcher for the Cardinals.
Stratton, a first-round pick by the Giants back in 2012. He's now 32 years old. From Tupelo, Mississippi, yeah. And went to Mississippi State, the home of Will Clark, Alfio Palmero, Bobby Thigpen. A few of the guys back in the day, a powerhouse.
Quite a storied history as Mark Canha leads things off for the Mets, who raced out to a 5-0 lead and has seen that lead trimmed to 5-4. So there's another well-known alum of Mississippi State, and he happens to reside these days inside the Mets dugout. That is the manager of the Mets, Buck Showalter.
Buck, little Mississippi State action, ball player himself, and one of the best managers in this game.
Buck Showalter led the Mets to 101 wins a season ago. Manager of the year, as we mentioned earlier. 4th time he's done so. 94 with the Yankees, 2004 with the Rangers, 2014 with the Orioles. Canha lines one right to shortstop, and Tyler Motter picks it out of the air for the first out.
Canha has swung the bat well today. A couple of lineouts and the base hit. Nice to see him getting his timing down.
Brings up Brett Beatty, still looking for his first hit on the day. Walk, a strikeout, and then grounded out to shortstop. Fouls one into the seats. And anytime I see that graphic come up, Baseball Night in New York, I think of our friend Sal Licata, who, by the way, has been down here this weekend.
I've been seeing Sal everywhere. I saw him at Tutti Fresco for dinner. I see him, hanging out around. He's enjoying his time down here in Port St. Lucie.
Beatty off his foot. Count remains 0-2. Oh, there's a picture of Sal. Look at that.
And what has he got on his shirt, Gare? Merry Buckness.
I saw the picture he put out on Twitter with the manager, with Buck.
He was excited to get down here to have some time to spend with Buck Showalter.
And look who he's sitting in front of there. He's talking to Billy Epler, who's right behind him.
Getting a little scoop. Passionate Mets fan, that's Sal.
A few years ago, when Todd Frazier was a member of the Mets, I'm a big fan of Todd, always have been. We were out there to do one of the pregame shows, and I'm walking up the tunnel by the dugout into the clubhouse, and Todd is walking right towards us. And the first thing he says to me is, "Hey, where's Sal Licata?" Beatty cannot hold up, and he goes down his second strikeout of the afternoon. First thing he says to me was, "Where's Sal Licata? I need to talk to him." I said, "Todd, I don't know where Sal is." But Sal emits that sort of reaction from fans and players alike. He is passionate. He loves the team so much.
He does. He actually can seem critical at times if you don't know him. The reality is he is just reacting like a lot of Mets fans want to react, and with that crazy passion inside of him. Loves Mike Piazza. We tell some Piazza stories in the studio, and he loves to hear every one of them.
Peraza up the middle, into center field for a base hit. So a two-out base runner for the Mets here in the seventh.
Peraza right here, always very simple, just A to B. Barrel to baseball. Doesn't have much in his hand. You see his hands just go straight down through the baseball. Keeps his hands inside, is able to fight that off through the center of the field, which, as we keep talking about, without the shift now, that's a base hit again.
DJ Stewart up for the fourth time, and a chance here with a home run to hit for the cycle. He tripled, knocked in a couple of runs in the first. He singled in the third inning and then doubled in the fifth. And he hammers one into right field. Back against the wall. It's gone. It is a cycle for DJ Stewart. How about that?
Unbelievable.
Holy cow. Now the wind is blowing out that way, but what the heck, doesn't matter.
Look at him. He's all smiles and taunting the dugout right there, because as soon as he hit it, he looked back in at the dugout as he was rounding first, because everybody knows. That's like, you don't say anything, kind of like a pitcher throwing a no-hitter, but man, as a hitter, this is as big as it gets. Great day for him. Nice to see.
Well, you said it after I said that he doubled there in the fifth inning. You said, don't think for 1 second he's not thinking about the cycle.
He's well aware of it, yeah, for sure. And he doesn't waste any time either. Gets a breaking ball that stays up. He goes right after, he hits it on the line. He's got to be thinking, hey, this has got a chance. Wind helped it a little bit maybe, but the line drive just enough to clear the wall.
Great moment for DJ Stewart. Extends the Mets lead to 7-4. They've now got 14 hits on the afternoon, and he's got 4 of those hits.
Spring training, Little League, high school, or World Series, a cycle feels great. I've never had one. Kind of like a hole-in-one, Gary.
Yes.
Kind of like a hole-in-one. I've never had one of those either, but one of these days.
I've had 2 of those.
And twice the golfer eye. Oh, look at him. He's happy. Good for him.
As he should be. Michael Perez is the batter. Took over for Alvarez behind the plate. Oh, that's awesome. Now, that home run was not a towering shot. Didn't get on. I mean, he lined that into right field.
Got a very level swing anyway, DJ Stewart does. Not a launch angle guy at all. We've seen on his other base hits today. The first one especially was a line drive. The right fielder thought he was going to have a chance at, but it had that backswing because of the level swing, carried out past him. He's kept that kind of trajectory, and that was a line drive home run. Good for him.
Perez goes down swinging, but the Mets extend their lead. The cycle for DJ Stewart. How about that? We go to the 8th. We're back here at Clover Park, Port St. Lucie, on a blustery, rather chilly day, 62 degrees. Our next Mets game coming up here on SNY is Wednesday at 1 o'clock. You can see that game only here on SNY as Tyler McGill is back out for a 3rd inning of work. It is worth noting on Wednesday, Todd, our friend, our colleague, Steve Gelbs is going to sit in this seat for the first time.
Good for Gelbs. I think he's going to be good.
That one goes off Baez, who's at shortstop now, and into center field.
He'll do a great job. Here's my only... Baez trying to get this ball ranging to his left, trying to slide and make this. He was going to try to slide, catch it, spin, and throw just off his left for a base hit. It's going to be interesting to see how Gelbs does with. He loves to tell stories. He's used to having time on the sidelines to really dig into things, and it's going to have to be quick, Gary. It's quick up here, isn't it? Especially with this new time clock.
Yes, game moves along. Mercado down to third. That goes off the glove down there, third base of Justin Guerrera. And the Cardinals now have 2nd and 3rd and nobody out. That's considered a base hit.
Number 36, right fielder, Scott Hurst.
Scott Hurst has to back up a little bit.
Tyler overthrowing a tiny bit on a couple balls. I've seen him pull to the glove side instead of staying straight through the catcher.
Pull to the right side. Malm grabs it and then throws back to second. Baez tries to put the tag on over there on Mercado, but he gets back in safely.
Well, a little miscommunication by the Cardinals on the base pass. This ball was hit, and the chopper with the infield back should have been going on contact. Runner at third didn't go, then it hung up the runner at second base. Malm doing a good job of trying to make that out, running at him the way he should have. Just the high throw cost the out at second base.
You've got to try to score on that, I would think.
Yeah, Mercado was surprised because he should have scored, and he knows it right there. He's upset at himself for not going, and now he knows he hung up Mercado at second base.
Still second and third with one out now. Back to the top of the lineup for the Cardinals.
Fortunate for the Mets and Tyler, that should have been a run in, and another runner at third base right now with one out. Instead, still second and third with no runs in.
Juniel Quiracudo up for the second time. Mets have made wholesale changes here in the 8th inning with Guerrera down at third, De Los Santos in left field, Rowdy Jordan in center field, Campos in right field, and Drake Osborne is the new catcher. Queracudo into left field. That one just foul. Coming up tonight, Honda Sports Night, the latest on the NCAA tournament. How many upsets have there been in the NCAA tournament? And the latest on the Rangers, who have been on a roll. That's coming up Honda Sports Night tonight at 11, only here on SNY.
You love this time of year, don't you, Gary?
I love the tournament. I do.
March Madness.
I mean, how about Fairleigh Dickinson? How about Princeton? I mean, it's Cinderella stories all across the board.
Since we're going there, the non-Cinderella story, our Bruins still hanging in there.
Laced into right field. That's a single for Queracudo. That knocks in Pajes, and Mercado's got a stop down at third, and so it cuts the lead to 7-5.
Number 7, left fielder, Justin Turner.
Base hit right through the hole. Does a good job staying down on that ball, but great job coming in and cutting off the run right there. This is where the base running mistake has had an impact so far. He can still get out of this pretty unscathed.
That ball is rocketed into right field. And that ball bounces up and over the wall for a ground rule double. Turner with a ground rule double, knocking in Mercado.
And that saves a run, too, by the ball going out over the fence.
Cuts the lead to 7-6.
First pitch, he's going up there looking for something and gets it, that low fastball. Takes a good swing on it, drives it up out over the wall, and that ground rule double kept that runner at third base. Instead of, would have easily been able to score on that ball had it gone off the wall.
Still just one out here in the 8th inning. Kramer Robertson with the tying and go-ahead runs on second and third. The Mets are playing the infield in here.
That pitch right there is something that I've seen him do a lot today. When I said he's pulling it a little bit to the glove side, missing on balls, and they're not missing close enough to get the batters to swing at him. They're missing off the plate, and they're obvious balls out of the hand.
And the count now goes to 3-1 on Robertson. And Robertson works out a walk to load the bases, and Jeremy Hefner is on his way to the mound. What about this, Todd? Any of this concern you? He has labored a bit out there.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some bad luck. There's a couple of infield hits that started this inning off, but he hasn't been able to really command that outside part of the plate. And when he's going for that outside part of the plate, he's been pulling some balls. I've been talking about it for the last couple innings, the fastball and the breaking ball. He's missing far enough away that you can't entice the hitter, and that puts hitters in hitters counts. And then when he's come in, they've been hittable pitches. So yeah, it's a little concerning. It's a rougher outing for him. You can see he's frustrated, and I'm sure he's frustrated with his command as much as anything.
So the bases are loaded. Queracudo, Turner, and Robertson. And Noah Mendlinger is the batter for the Cards. Robertson, 56 pitches so far.
for Tyler. 56. That's 57 pitches now.
Yes. In just 2 1/3 innings. That is a batter timeout, so that is the one timeout that Mendlinger gets in this at bat.
We're going to reset the clock to 20 seconds.
Here's the 1-1 pitch from McGill, bounced down to first, and that is a foul ball.
And this is that time when Tyler, earlier in the season last year, get himself into trouble. He could reach back a little bit and get that strikeout. He hasn't had a strikeout going today. A lot of balls in play, a lot of hitters counts. This is when he could use one right now with that 1-2.
On the ground to third base, that's thrown away by Guerrera. Goes into center field, and they're having trouble out there. 2 runners score on the play as Quercudo and Turner score. That's an E5 on Justin Guerrera, and the Cardinals have taken the lead 8-7.
Now, this is a ball as a third baseman. You just got to be satisfied with getting one out. He came in, tried to get the force at second base, off balance throw, and then the circus sort of ensues. And now this is the time where Tyler McGill, in a spring training game, just to work on his command, work on getting something out of this outing.
I would think this is a pretty frustrating outing here for Tyler McGill. Defense has not been great behind him.
Now, some bad luck hits, some tough defense, but at the end of the day, he's still out there to work on what he needs to work on, which is he needs to have a little bit better command of his, and like I keep saying, that outside part of the plate to the right-handers especially. He's been missing away a lot, and I think he's most frustrated with probably his own command, if you ask him.
Lucan Baker is the batter for the Cardinals. There's still just one out here in the top of the 8th inning. There goes the base runner. Throw down, high. But they still get the out there. As Noah Mendlinger is gunned down at second base by Perez.
That almost seemed like a misread on a hit and run. He had no chance to steal that bag. He gets him by a long ways. Even with the high throw, Perez is still able to make the tag. Didn't get a great jump right there.
And Baker walks, another walk here by Tyler McGill. Here comes the manager, Buck Showalter. That's going to be it for Tyler McGill. David Griffin is going to be the new pitcher for the Mets when we come back. There's 26-year-old David Griffin. He is the 4th pitcher of the afternoon for the Mets. Young man from Hanover, Massachusetts. In relief of Tyler McGill, who walked 5, Todd, in 2 2/3. That cannot make him or the manager very happy.
No. Especially, we talked about the fact that he had some tough luck, some tough defense, some infield hits. But at the end of the day, I think what he was most frustrated about, and you could see he was very frustrated when he left the mound, was his lack of command. He was missing pulling balls to his glove side, something that he may just chalk this one up. Hey, spring training game and a little cooler, just didn't have the command, but wouldn't be surprised to go see him do a little more work in the bullpen as David Peterson did after his outing.
Andrew Kisner skies one into right field. And finally, this inning comes to an end as Campos makes the catch. The Cardinals get 4, they lead 8-7. We head to the bottom of the 8th inning on a chilly, overcast day here in Port St. Lucie. The Mets trail the Cardinals now 8-7 as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. As we go downstairs inside the Mets dugout, joined right now by DJ Stewart, who had himself quite a day. Hit for the cycle. How about that?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's my first one ever. Chavi was actually, I was supposed to be done, and he came up to me after that, the top half of the inning, and he's like, "Hey, you're done." And I kind of looked at him and told him, I was like, "Chavi, I'm a homer away from the cycle." And he was like, if you get up this inning, you can hit." So when I hit first, I looked back at the dugout, was kind of laughing at him.
So you talked your way back in there.
Yeah, I wanted that last one for sure.
Well, one of the things, by the way, Gary Apple with Todd Zeal. Todd said to me after you got your third hit and were a home run away from the cycle, he said, "Don't think for a second the DJ is not thinking about the cycle."
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard. I mean, I don't know when the last one is, but I know coming from Baltimore last year, Austin Hayes, one of my outfield buddies with them, he hit for it last year, and it's just so hard to do, and you just rarely see it, and I'm still in shock, honestly.
DJ, it's Todd Zeal. As Gary said, as soon as I saw you rounding, headed to second, I'm like, you better stay in there because this man has a chance to do something very rare. I equated it to a hole-in-one in golf, and I've never had one of those. Have you ever had one of those?
No, I don't golf. That's something I think I'll take up when I'm done playing. But I've heard stories about people doing hole-in-ones and stuff, but I still can't believe what happened today.
So on an actual baseball note, regarding your swing, something that I noticed with you, you've got a very level swing in this launch angle, sort of era. Is that something you've always done, or have you had to make adjustments as guys have gone up in the zone?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, you see more and more velocity, high fastball. So I definitely have to adjust at times with guys that are throwing those, but I also know what my strengths are as well, so I don't want to kind of go outside that zone. If they make 3 solid pitches up there, then you got to tip your cap. But I know what works for me. It's kind of, that's been my swing kind of my whole life. I'm a strong guy, so I try to hit line drives as much as I can. Doubles kind of turn into home runs for me. But obviously you have to adjust based on the pitchers that you're facing. But stay within yourself as well.
Yeah, no, the level swing is something that I think you're starting to see more guys go to because of that high velo up in the zone. And the triple that you hit in the first was a ball that is exactly what you're describing, a line drive that had great carry on it and got past the right fielder because of that backspin that you get on that with that level swing.
Yeah, that one actually kind of surprised me too, because I knew I hit it well, but with the wind the way it is today, I thought it might stay up, but to see that carry through the wind, to know that I cut through it, that's a good sign that you actually stayed through the baseball and really drove that one. So that was good to see for me.
You've had a really good spring, DJ, not just today. What's it been like to play for the manager, Buck Showalter?
It's been awesome. I had a little bit of time with Buck in Baltimore. Just a very, very short amount of time, but that was kind of one of the things that attracted me to signing here, is the familiarity with him and Kirby in the outfield, and just obviously this team and the guys that I'm playing around, and just kind of put a good impression on those guys and contribute any way that I can and be a part of this thing.
What does your season look like? Where do you see yourself? What has the organization told you?
They haven't really told me much, but I'm still here, so I'm just going to keep my head down and keep playing well and try everything I can to make this team. And whenever my name's called and numbers called, I'll do my best to help in any way that I can.
By the way, as we finish this up, that home run, when it left your bat, did you think it was gone?
I knew I hit it good, but like I said, the wind's been playing games. It played games on us in the outfield a little bit today as well. So I knew I hit it good, but I didn't know if the wind was going to do anything with it or not. But once I hit first and saw that it wasn't off the wall or anything, I was smiling from ear to ear.
That is awesome. What a day for you, DJ Stewart. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations. Way to go.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining. As you said, Todd, that's like one of those things you think about, and it's so rare.
As you should.
To
It's
do.
more rare than a hole-in-one. I mean, we're talking about one of the most rare things in baseball, the cycle, and for an offensive guy, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's Little League, high school, or the big league spring training, you'll take it. Cycle is very rare and something that's fun, and he'll remember the rest of his life.
And how about the fact that he talked his way to come back up there for that fourth at bat?
I love it. I saw he and Eric Chavez, as he mentioned, looking at each other and laughing when he was coming in, and it was great for him to explain the fact that Chavez told him he was done, and he said, hey, wait a minute, I still got one more crack at this.
It's a great day for DJ Stewart. The Mets trail it here 8-7 in the bottom of the eighth inning. Rowdy Jordan is the batter. Baez over at first with one out. Mets jumped in front. They got 5 in the first inning. Cardinals got 2 in the fifth. Mets extended the lead. 7-4 in the bottom of the seventh, and then the Cardinals came back. They got 4 in the top of the eighth off Tyler and McGill to take the lead 8-7. Kyle Leahy is the new pitcher for St. Louis, their 5th pitcher of the afternoon. Dakota Hudson got the start. 3 2/3, 10 hits, 5 runs. How have you held up, by the way, Todd, with the no sweatshirt and the chill in the air? I saw you had some coffee.
I could have been more prepared, Gary. I could have been more prepared. Yes, you know, I'm expecting sunny Florida, but it's a little chillier today with the wind, especially. It's a little breezy.
Let me ask you, because we live in an age of cell phones and iPhones. First thing I do in the morning is check my phone to see what the weather is going to be. Do you not do that?
As did I. Let's see.
Lifted into shallow left field, and it is grabbed by the shortstop, Menlinger, for the second out. So, I would think the lovely Kristen Zeal might give you a little nudge there,
well,
Todd.
She offered to bring me a sweatshirt. I got dropped off. I thought I was going to be fine. It says 67, 68. That's not cold, Gary. Even for, a California guy. 67, 68 is all right. It's just a little cool breeze and no sunshine out there that's making it a little chillier, but I'm not complaining, Gary.
I understand. You had the warm cup of coffee that Ross made sure
yes, he did.
Kept you warm.
Yeah, Ross was thinking about me. I thought he was going to offer me a sweatshirt, but instead he got me some coffee to keep my hands warm. So I could take yours, but that's a pretty SNY coat you got on there, Gary. I don't have one of those.
This is one of the early SNY bits of swag. It's lined a little bit, so because it's 62 and it's a cold. Listen, we know it's cold up north. I'm not complaining. 40 degrees in New York, we understand right now, according to our producer Eddie Warman. So we're not complaining, but for Port St. Lucie, where it's been really warm, it's chilly. So that's the third out. We head for the ninth inning. It's 8-7 Cards. So as we head to the ninth inning, don't adjust your television sets if you're seeing Tyler McGill, who was replaced by David Griffin. It is indeed Tyler. He's back on the mound here, getting a little bit more work in the ninth inning.
Yeah, that's the great thing about spring training, Gary. You see that line right there. Not something he's happy with today. And I thought he might go down to the bullpen and work on some things because it wasn't the pitch count, really. I think he was frustrated. It was a lot of pitches in one inning. They took him out, let him get the rest of that inning off, bringing him back out here to see if he can make some adjustments. And once again, keep talking about him pulling that ball to his glove side and missing outside to the right-handers, which he's done the last 2 pitches again. I think that's something that he's got to try to figure out what he's doing and why those things are happening and try to make the adjustments. And I think Buck just wants to try to get him to end on a good note.
Facing Pedro Paez here in the ninth inning, and count evens now at 2-2.
I mean, this just highlights the fact that spring training is to get ready for the big league season. It is not about wins and losses, not about the results as much as it is about getting the work in so that you're ready to go when the lights come on.
Paez lifts one into left field. De Los Santos giving way out there. Rowdy Jordan makes the catch, one out.
Tyler is usually a very tough guy to read his face. Doesn't ever get too high or too low. Non-emotional when he's on the mound, but you could see he was clearly frustrated last inning.
Base hit through the left side.
And I'm sure that he wanted to get back out there and try to make some of those adjustments, get the feel back. Because it's been a really good spring for him thus far, and it's just gone a little awry today.
Second hit of the day for Oscar Mercado. Scott Hurst is hitless with a walk, ground out, a strikeout, and then another ground out down to first base in the eighth inning. There's the first throw over of this at bat by Tyler McGill.
It's a big lead at first base right there. He's tempting him to throw over again. It's a really big lead.
And he does throw back over. Malm puts the tag down, but not in time. So that's two. Let's see what he does right here. If he tries to throw over again and does not get the base runner, Mercado, it's a balk, and Mercado will get second base. Doesn't go, pitches up high.
Tried to quick pitch him right there, the slide step. It's tough to have the command. I wondered right there if that might have been a good place for a pitch out. It's something you haven't seen hardly in this game anymore, but that might be a good opportunity to use a pitch out. Now with 1-1, you don't want to go behind 2-1.
And we are going to see more pitch outs this season, I would think, as Hurst lines one foul. What do you make of the number of pitches here by Tyler McGill, up at 74 pitches?
Well, I think they certainly had him, slated for a number of pitches, probably 75 to 80. So you may not see him for too much longer, but I think they want, as I keep saying, for him to get that rhythm back in on a positive note. And whether it's working in the bullpen to get some mechanics sorted out or back in the mound, I think they'd rather have him back in the mound against hitters.
He's ahead 1-2 on Hurst and bounces one. I would think at this point, and not just based off today, but I would think, and we were speaking earlier, that David Peterson has the inside track for that fifth starter spot.
Tyler still a little bit frustrated, missing with his location now. A good opportunity to see the runners go right here. Look for a strike him out, throw him out to end his outing.
Mercado leading off first, leaning towards second. Hurst up there at the plate. Mercado takes off on the ground. Peraza shuffles. They get one, and they do get two as Baez fires on the Malm for the double play. The 4-6-3 double play. Last chance for the Mets. Down a run. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by CDW, by Nissan. Catch these offers while you can at the Nissan Thrill of the Drive sales event. Shop nissanusa.com. By NYU Langone Health, the #1 hospital in New York. And by Westbury Toyota, the buck stops at the Westbury Toyota Superstore, #1 in the tri-state. Last chance for the Mets here in the bottom of the 9th inning. Dalton Roach is the new pitcher for the Cardinals.
26 years old. Dalton Roach, just a little time this spring. Hasn't had any big league time yet. Still trying to crack that major league roster. From Minnesota State, and was a 21st round pick by the Astros back in 2018. Gary, it was nice that they got that footage of you coming in on your boat this morning.
Oh, yes.
From your brother Roy's house.
Oh, I just came right up the way.
Yeah, it was nice. That was good they brought that into the broadcast.
De Los Santos leads off here for the Mets in the bottom of the 9th. I try to take advantage when I'm down here of all the different things that we can do as opposed to when we're stuck inside. There we are. That's
there he
beauty.
is. Yeah. You got a driver, I see, because you're ducked down there. You don't want to mess up the hair on the way to the
exactly
to the broadcast.
My brother Roy actually drives the boat for me. Popped up into center field. Mercado drifting, 1 down. Aaron Campos spent last season down in Single A. He came in to replace Starling Marte in right field. How's your scorecard doing, Todd?
Lots of colors, lots of X's, lots of question marks, but you know, got the score down, Gare. Right now, Mets need to rally to keep this one going.
I think it's going to be somewhat interesting, by the way, as the guys do start to make their way back from the World Baseball Classic. A lot of times later in spring, guys start to get some time off as they get ready for the regular season. Now when guys come back to see how they're going to be indoctrinated back into the lineup.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting spring, too, because not only out of the WBC, but there's also 3 days off after the last spring game before the start of the season, which is unusual as well. So they're going to have plenty of time to charge the batteries and be ready for opening day. So it'll be interesting to see how Buck uses the guys down the stretch.
How did you deal with the end of spring and the way you wanted to get your at-bats in before the regular season began?
And we used to play a lot more games, I think, when I was in spring
and by the way,
training. And
clock violation
yep. Right there. And I liked to play full games the last week. I wanted to get 3 or 4 at-bats because I always took a long time getting ready to go in the season. I was a slow starter. I was never very good in spring training. And so I wanted to kind of feel like I was seeing the baseball and getting enough at-bats right at the end of the spring to where when you go north and the lights come on, you know, you have a chance to be productive.
Full count on Campos. Pitch went a mile high. Goes into foul ground. And over to make the play is the shortstop, Noah Menlinger, for the second out. And the Mets are down to their final out. How different is it, Todd, when you go from that last spring game and then the regular season begins? How much does the intensity get ramped up.
It's weird. It's kind of like going from regular season into the postseason. It doesn't matter what you've done. All of a sudden, the lights come on, the body feels good, the adrenaline is high, and it feels like, okay, this is what I was working for to get to this point. And, you know, oftentimes it's cold. You're in, you know, back in a big league ballpark in a city where it might still be frigid, but, you know, you kind of, all of that just disappears when the regular season starts. A lot of excitement around opening day, always has been, and it didn't really matter the 11 teams that I was on. I don't know how many I had opening days with, but they all felt like, hey, this is something special. Take it in, enjoy it, because, you know, you don't know how many of these you're going to get.
Jose Peraza takes the ball as the Mets are down to their final strike. One of the interesting things about the Mets this season, they're beginning not just on the road, but they're opening in 2 stadiums with domes.
Well, I think that MLB, in making the schedule, which is a very challenging thing to do, should have been.
And Peraza looks at a called third strike to bring this game to a close. Finish up this
Just thinking that they should have been doing that more. It makes a lot of sense to start in warm weather cities and places with domes and then get back to the cold weather cities. But we'll see enough of that. And, you know, another spring game down. Not a great one for the Mets in the result. But I think the takeaway for me, Gare, is David Peterson and Tyler McGill. We talked about the fact that those were the 2 guys that are going to be vying for that fifth spot. Neither of them were as sharp as we've ever seen today. David Peterson, though, did have a nice outing with 4 innings pitched and 4 strikeouts. And then the big story, obviously, DJ Stewart with the cycle. Good for him. But I think Peterson took another step in finding himself in that Mets starting rotation today.
So that's your game summary, brought to you by CDW. And the 2 errors certainly do stick out for the Mets. It was not their cleanest game that we have seen so far this spring. We're back here on SNY on Wednesday. That's our next game here on the network as the Mets take on the Houston Astros. Our coverage getting underway at 1 o'clock. And again, Steve Gelb's behind the mic, making his maiden voyage in that game. And so that is going to wrap up our coverage of Mets baseball on this Sunday afternoon. Mets fall to the Cardinals 8-7. For Todd Zeal, I'm Gary Apple. We thank you for joining us, and we say so long from Port St. Lucie.